Welcome to the Phoenix News Network's full team coverage of Democratic Freakout 2024. Oh God, what do we do now? I'm Andrea Bridges-Smith, and I'm freaking out. And also freaking out with me is Austin Dodson. Austin, what combination of drugs do you need to help you get through the next 4 months?
Andrea, I've got a kiddie pool filled with everything I could steal from the dumpster behind my local pharmacy. And I swim through that pile like I'm Scrooge McDuck, so I am set until Saturday.
Terrific. Now, as I mentioned, we have full team coverage, so let's go now to our chief Democratic mood consultant, Jen Haston. Jen, you have spent the past few days talking to every Democrat you could find in the House and Senate, many of whom were actively trying to hide from you under their desks. Can you sum up the mood on Capitol Hill?
Yes, I can sum it up in 2 words: intestinal distress. The combination of coffee, desk drawer, scotch, and panic has the congressional bathrooms looking like a bomb went off in there.
That sounds gross, Jen.
Oh, it is.
Jen, let me ask you this. Have you ever seen a panic like this within the party before?
Not since Nancy Pelosi threatened to start a conga line at the Christmas party, no.
Oh, God.
Wow. That sounds really unpleasant.
Nasty.
Jen, is there anything that anyone can do to bring the temperature down a notch or 6? You know, I mean, all this stress can't be good for you, for us, for the party. What do we do here?
Not really. Not really, Andrea. Until November, everybody's buttholes are going to be tighter than pickle jar lids.
Yeah, she's not kidding. I can't get anything up mine right now, and I've really been trying, so...
Yeah, I think I heard the sobbing coming from the bathroom earlier. Okay, thanks, Jen. Please expense whatever you need to smoke to get through this.
Already have, boss. Already have.
Okay, so Jen's been talking to the folks on Capitol Hill, but our chief voter correspondent, Mike Dynamo, has been out in the trenches in Houston, which was just hit by Hurricane Beryl. Mike, are the voters down there freaking out?
About what? This election shit? Nah, this hurricane is the best thing that could have happened to us. No electricity, a bunch of dead phone batteries, no one able to read or watch the news. We're as cool as a cucumber, baby. Except for the extreme heat and the lack of air conditioning.
So, Mike, are you saying that the way forward for the Democratic Party is to get hit by a hurricane?
Honestly, I think we should do a hurricane once a week from now until November to keep everybody's mind off the fact that democracy is going to implode.
I mean, I'm willing to try it.
Yeah, why not? Hey, thanks, Mike, for being the only person to offer some kind of coherent solution to our problems this week.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Always happy to help.
Now, one thing to note, we are filming this Thursday evening on July 11th, and by the time you see it, there's no telling what kind of world we might be living in.
A talking dog might be the presidential nominee by that point. And Teen Wolf rules say that could be a real possibility.
I mean, entire empires could have risen and fallen by then. We just don't know.
But what we can say is that Joe, in the headlights Biden, has been making the rounds to emphatically emphasize that he is staying in the race. Or at least he will be if one of his aides could just help him find it. Okay, maybe after a little nap. You know, and a nice Werther's Original hard candy. Would you like to see some pictures of his grandkids? His son Hunter bought him these new digital frames that show all the pictures from the Googles. He even set it up. Hunter is so good with computers. Where are we going?
And continuing his string of extremely reassuring public appearances that somehow keep not helping, just before we started filming this, President Biden gave a press conference after wrapping up the NATO summit. Austin, how do you think he did?
You remember that movie, They Live? I'm happier this way. Yeah. Keith, Roddy, stand down and stand by. I'm sending you a big box of bubble gum.
Yeah, lot to talk about from that press conference. First of all, I thought it was very reassuring that it started an entire hour late. It really gave people a lot of time to speculate as to whether or not the president had died or not, which I think was very constructive.
I found that using that time to just really wallow in the terror helped me really wallow in the terror.
Yes. If ever there was a time to wallow in the terror, it was that entire frickin' hour before the damn thing started. And then, he came out And right away, someone was like, Kamala Harris, question mark. And then he called her Trump.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president.
And boy, did that really do a lot to put everybody's fears to rest, don't you think?
And I'd say swing and a miss, but I feel like we're in the wrong sport here.
Yeah, I no one knows what sport we're even playing anymore. There were gaffes, and I think we all knew that there were going to be some gaffes.
There was no way that wasn't happening.
I mean, we all saw that coming, and then they happened, and it killed our soul just a little bit more every single time we saw one. Dude knows a lot about other countries.
Which is nice. He named several of them several times in a row.
He did.
Yeah.
He never said South Dakota Stan, which was somewhat reassuring, I suppose.
I felt grateful for the extra Australia.
We just put together with today. I asked our NATO allies that we bring on the group from the South Pacific, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Australia. I already mentioned Australia.
Because, I do like Australia. It's like a happy country.
Sure.
From over here, if we don't have to deal with their actual internal politics. But from my standpoint, I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, no, I think it was great that he kept calling out Australia.
Lovely.
2 seconds after he called him out the first time. That was fun. He also really seems to have connected with voters' main concerns here. He was bringing up AUKUS. And a lot of voters have been like, I don't care what the price of bread is. I don't care what the price of plane tickets are. I don't care about the price of anything. What I want to know is, how is the Pacific Rim Alliance going?
Well, those monsters and giant robots have been a real source of concern for a number of voters.
Sure.
Ever since they stayed up a little late and took their meds a little close to bedtime and got confused as to whether or not they were watching CNN or Netflix.
Amen. And so I thought he did a really good job of putting those concerns to rest. I think, in the next 24 hours, we may see 1 or 2 people be like, President Biden should drop out.
You think maybe people should go, President Biden should drop out, like to each other? Or they'd be like, hey, President Biden, maybe drop out.
Yeah, no, I think what's probably the soundest course of action is if they just say it quietly to each other and not out loud to anybody else. That seems to be working.
There's a large school of thought that says, whatever your concerns, whatever your issues are, shut up.
Yes. And I think President Biden did a really good job of kind of conveying that, the shut the hell upness of all of it. I think he really nailed.
Well, when he told that one reporter that he would come off this podium and slap the bejesus out of him if he brings that drop out of the race shit up one more time. Yeah. I was a little surprised by that. Normally he doesn't like to walk that far, but I guess it was nice to see him invigorated.
He was very invigorated, and then he coughed several times right after that. I guess he's still getting over that cold that he had.
Those can persist.
A couple of weeks ago, after he had the jet lag from the month prior to that.
Well,
it's hard to...
He'd been through a lot of that one state's time zone.
Yeah, Maryland?
But a lot, yeah.
Oh, God, he's been all over Maryland, from Camp David all the way back to Washington, D.C., which isn't even in Maryland. It's just next to it.
He's been more over Maryland than JFK.
Sure.
Deep cut.
And that one goes way back. It was a good one. High five.
Whatever.
I like that. Okay. Well, anyway, that's how that went.
It was sad, but I'm not crying now, which is an improvement over last time.
Right. It was slightly better than the debate. And I don't know if that's because we started drinking earlier this time that might have been helpful. I don't regret that decision. I think that was correct. We had a whole hour to drink between when we thought it was going to start and when it actually started. So that I really felt like toned our liver.
You know, pre-gaming your politics, it just makes it more enjoyable. Next time we should tailgate.
Yes, election night, we will start probably at like 11 a.m. just to make sure we're good and drunk by the time the polls start closing.
Yeah, and if we tailgate near the alley behind a 7-Eleven, I know how we can really get that party started right. I've got a pal there who can help us out. And yeah, that's definitely what I'm going to just start doing heavily as the actual election closes in. Like death's sweet embrace.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. Now, there is no question that this has been a bad week for Joe Biden. We've got sagging poll numbers. We've got donors closing their wallets until they figure out what the hell is going on. And then we've got several calls for him to drop out of the race, including from George Clooney.
A2, Batman.
So the question on everyone's mind right now is, what is happening behind the scenes? We've got all these details about closed-door discussions that have been trickling out via congressional staffers who are as leaky as the post-iceberg version of the Titanic.
And according to the New York Times, Biden's own team is doing some polling on Kamala Harris for no reason in particular. They just really like doing polls.
It's not suspicious at all, is it? So as of right now, Thursday evening, as we're recording this, Joe Biden has not dropped out of the race. But if he does, there is a way to do that that would be ideal from a comedic perspective.
That's right, Andrea. We expect that the Biden campaign team is watching this like they do every week, and we have some notes.
And really, at this point, the best thing that Biden can do is go out in a comedic blaze of glory.
Oh, dig this. You know how Trump is giving his speech at the RNC next Thursday?
So like 5 minutes before that speech starts is when Biden needs to announce that he's dropping out of the race.
You want to talk about an old man flailing for words on live TV?
It would be so funny.
Biden campaign team, we're giving you that one for free. Run with it.
Now, Democratic Party members have been floating a plan in the event that Biden drops out of the race or wanders off during the race and gets lost in a lobby somewhere.
Hey, should somebody drop an AirTag on that guy?
Yeah, it's probably a smart thing to do.
So, if Biden does end up stepping aside, the big question is who replaces him? Kamala Harris is the obvious choice, of course, but that just feels, boring and predictable. If we're going to do an Indiana Jones-style candidate swap this close to the election, I say let's really go for it.
You know, Austin, it's funny that you mention that because Mr. Beast has actually thrown his hat in the ring. Let's go back to Mike in Houston to learn more. Mike, what do you think about this idea?
Normally, I would think this was stupid, maybe even disrespectful. But after that debate performance by the sitting president and his more off-kilter political rival, maybe a 26-year-old YouTube president would be better than the reality show president we had 4 years ago. So yeah, let's lower the age requirement for Mr. Beast. He has a United States worth of followers. How bad could he be?
Okay, well, kind of hard to argue with that.
Mike, once again, the only person making any sense around here. Thanks for that, Mike.
Now, obviously, Democrats aren't the only ones doing stuff. The GOP has been busy too. Next week is the Republican National Convention, and we will not be there.
Oh, God, no. But the big topic of discussion is going to be this Project 2025 thing. Have you guys heard about this? It's like a mashup of the worst parts of The Handmaid's Tale, 1984, and Catch-22. Well, Donald Trump sure hasn't heard of it. In fact, no Republican politicians have any idea what you're talking about. What the Heritage Foundation is, who's this Kevin Roberts guy you speak of? Joe Biden stutters and is a few years older than their own old-ass candidate. Okay. Look. Yes, Trump and literally every Republican licks every winky crease of the Heritage Foundation's prolapsed anus. And no candidate is getting a Moscow dime unless they ask for seconds. But just because Project 2025 Manifesto was created by over 140 former Trump, office holders, doesn't mean that they support it or have even heard of it.
Right. It's like when your friend writes a book and you buy a copy to be supportive, and then they're like, "What's your favorite part of the book?" And you're like, "Oh man, that first chapter really just kind of grabbed me from the get-go, you know." And then the other chapters just, wow, it's good stuff.
Now, one other interesting thing to note is that right before the big convention, New York Times editorial board has come out and said that Donald Trump is not fit to lead.
Wow, maybe he should drop out of the race too.
Or maybe he should be dropped into a tank full of batteries and angry sharks.
I mean, we're cool either way.
Yeah. AOC is calling for Justices Thomas and Alito to be impeached and for the Justice Department to launch an investigation. So if you're a fan of being on the edge of your seat for unbelievably monumental and unprecedented government investigations that never seem to actually go anywhere, then you are in as much luck as you have been for the last 8 years. Yay.
Now, before we go any further, Austin, we have covered a lot of ground here, but there is one story that is so monumental, so consequential, that it could change everything we know about everything.
Is this the Margarita butt thing?
Yeah, it's a margarita butt thing. So here's the deal. A couple was arrested after a guy tried to pour a pitcher of margaritas into a woman's ass via a funnel in a Mexican restaurant.
Like, did they not know about queso? Why did the waiter not recommend some nice queso ahead of the butt chugging of frozen mango strawberry swirl?
I don't know. But after watching all of politics for the past couple weeks, I'm not ruling out pouring a margarita directly into my ass.
Well, you know, as long as it's got chips with it and the salt rim.
Yeah, that sounds comforting and like it would sting a little, which kind of what I'm in the mood for right now.
It'd be up from here.
Yeah.
It's definitely better than where we're at.
The 4 volunteers of a NASA Mars habitat experiment have emerged after a year of being isolated together. Once their cell phones' news feeds updated, they immediately ran back into the habitat and barricaded the door from the inside. NASA administrators are in talks with the crew to be allowed in there with them.
Good news out of the state of Oklahoma. Some grocery stores now have vending machines for ammo. The machines will feature the latest AI for age verification and will sell you any amount of ammo, limited only by what the machine can hold. But if you are worried about safety, don't be. The condoms at the store will still be kept under lock and key.
One of the world's weirdest looking birds, the Shoebill stork, is being raised by Muppets. Birds being raised by Muppets? What's next? Dogs and cats living together?
Mass hysteria! Now, if I've learned anything about Florida, it's never to go to Florida. They just had a 14-year-old boy who was bitten by a shark. The state of Florida must hate the people that live in Florida because it's always trying to unalive them with hurricanes and alligators, lightning, bears, panthers, and sharks. Oh my.
Oh, and don't forget mosquitoes, tornadoes, wildfires, and riptides.
So, if you ever have to go to Florida, wrap yourself in shrink wrap and hope for the best.
And finally tonight, Parthenogenesis rears its confusing head again. First with a manta ray and now with snakes. A boa constrictor that they wrongly thought was male and kept alone for a decade said fuck it to natural law and had 14 little snake babies. Samuel L. Jackson could not be reached for comment, but we have a pretty good idea of what he'd say.
Well, that wraps up this week's episode. Andrea, you're on your own for the next 2 weeks while I go on a side quest.
I hope the cell phone reception is terrible there.
Oh, God, me too.
Enjoy your trip, and I'll see the rest of you next week. Love
Love
you.
you.
Bye.
Dear Texas, if only you give the 2 million people their power back, I promise we'll forgive all the other stuff you've done. No more stress about abortion rights. No more yelling at the give-a-shitlessness of Governor Greg Abbott. No more anger at the crime boss candidate Donald Trump this state seems to love. You give us our power back and we'll forget all that stuff. Oh, who am I kidding? No, we won't. You should still give us the power back, though.